Thank you, Presiding Officer. When I came here in June 2001, my very first speech was on fisheries, appropriately. And in that speech, I harked back to the work of Alan McCartney, member of the European Parliament, in relation to localities management, because it was he who'd championed that change in approach, which we see a little of in the progress that's been made in European fisheries policy. And on that basis, I very much welcome Labour's call for greater flexibility and regionalisation in their amendment. I think that absolutely focuses on some important things. I do think the very least I can say is that all three opposition parties have been unwise in deleting what it says in the government motion about our fisheries minister, the most experienced in Europe, leading the UK delegation, and I quote, where it is clearly appropriate to do so. In other words, it's not seeking an absolute right, it's where it's appropriate to do so. And indeed, let's just consider the issues for fishermen in other parts of the UK besides Scotland. It helps them to have the most experienced minister at the table. So it's not about simply, as the Tory motion says, benefiting from the UK's negotiating strength in Europe, but the UK benefiting from the strength of experience that being led by a Scottish fisheries minister would bring to the table. Now, I don't know the member of the House of Lords who led the UK delegation. He may be a very excellent person. We only address the issue of his inexperience and his working on a very different brief. As far as my research could see, his sole parliamentary contact with fishing had been to answer 3 written questions on the same day in October 2013, and I rather guess, as a former minister I might say this, that the civil servants wrote it rather than drew on the knowledge of the minister. But however, that's a matter we'll no doubt return to on another occasion. The Scottish Fishermen's Federation have provided us with a briefing. I very much welcome that. And it highlights the adverse interaction between old, unreformed and as yet not abandoned legislation and the new schemes that are seeking to eliminate discards. And it's precisely that kind of area where I think an experienced fisheries minister will always sacrifice an inexperienced one. The pelagic fleet, we've heard of some of the difficulties that they face, less from biological factors, but much more fundamentally from political decisions vis-à-vis the relationship between the Faroes and the EU, and, of course, the developing difficulties in relation to trade with Russia, which are creating difficulties in the industry. The SPPA also do point out that restrictive legislation from Tórshavn, which seems to be designed to distort the market, is adding burdens to our industry and seeing our fish caught in Scottish waters by Faroese boats being required essentially to be landed in the Faroes. And of course that probably actually isn't much in the interest of the Faroese fishermen even, because it's restricting the market opportunities for them. But more fundamentally, it's potentially restricting the opportunities for our processing industry. Now, we've seen many years of sacrifice by our fishing industry. The number of boats has come down. That decline is more or less stabilised. And total allowable catches are going up this year, and that's very good news. And that's because of the sacrifices of our fishermen. But where we previously might have seen that quota used usefully to increase economically valuable landings, it's quite likely a lot of that will have to be used to be allocated to fish that might have been discarded. So it's not clear that we've got a system under the EU rules that is going to be of value to our fishermen to the extent that a better thought-out fishing quota system would be. And of course, the catching sector is very important, but even bigger is the processing sector. Many people in processing, packaging and promoting our fish. In my constituency, it's thousands of people. I recently attended a sea fish presentation. I was very impressed by the interaction that those who retail our fish, either as wet fish or in our restaurants, have with Scotland, because we want to get more Scots eating this good quality product for their health, but also for the health of our industry. The SFF are welcoming what's happened in the negotiations with the EU and Norway this year. That's good. The SPPA much less happy about the Faroese tax position. But seeing cod quota rising, seeing haddock quota rising, is absolutely first class. Now, the price of fishing for the fishermen at sea is high. My very first constituency event in 2001 was to see a bravery award to a fisherman who in January went overboard near Greenland to fish out one of his colleagues. He said he was more frightened going up and speaking to the audience in the Fishermen's Mission at Peterhead than he was diving off the boat. Little he knows. The one's easy, the other one is difficult. Presiding Officer, I just share my apologies with members here. A rather urgent matter will take me away, and I won't be here necessarily for the next two speeches, but I will return for the closing speeches. Thank you.
Thank you. And I now call on Cara Hilton to be followed by Rob Gibson. Up to 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I welcome the opportunity to speak in today's debate on an issue of great importance to the Scottish economy, to our fishermen